also, yes, we can pretend that shooting stars in the night sky are like, you know what? Pretend that I said what I wanted to say. Hi. I like, the new name. Just checking, did you get my go live notification? Because I know it got messed up for some people last time. And also, hello. You might notice the vibe is a bit different because, piano music, but it's because we're reading today. You did. Okay, good. And also, a couple things. Number one, we're playing off of Twitch's soundtrack feature, so I don't know what it's gonna play. It's just because we've been doing this for 4 months now, and by this I don't mean streaming. I've been doing that for like 5 months. A little over 5 months. But for 4 months now, I've been reading 20,000 Leagues on stream. And I've been playing the same piano soundtrack for all of those streams. And I was like, it would be cool if we could get some variation in there, because I don't know if you cared, but I cared. Also, I just reached 1,000 viewers, which I'm pretty sure, or like not 1,000 viewers, you know, but like 1,000 views, which I'm pretty sure means that 1,000 people have seen my channel or seen like one of my videos or live streams, which is an insane number. Also, I noticed Posture Check was redeemed not during a stream, I'm pretty sure, if you can even do that, by Caster Baby, who is you. I don't know if you can confirm or deny, but my stream manager says it was redeemed July 28th, and I don't think I streamed on July 28th. But that's besides the point. How are you doing? Hello, Chico! Oh my gosh! Thank you so much for stopping by. We're finishing up part 1 of 20,000 Leagues today, and I'm very excited. There's a lot of big things happening. I put on my Instagram the other day and asked if I should make separate social media for all of my streaming stuff, and the response was like 80% yes, which is probably from people who follow me personally who are like, I'm sick of it. But it's fine because I've been looking to do a whole rebranding, and this is my chance. Okay, have fun with Genshin. Cowboy hat, of course. But yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, even besides it like helping my reach, also like the more people I've interacted with on Twitch, and this isn't supposed to be negative with people I've interacted with on Twitch. Oh my gosh! Hi! Thank you so much for rating, Ashlyn. You're the best. Thank you. I do. I so much appreciate it. Oh my gosh! I like just started. This is so cool. The piano music's loud? Okay, cool. I thought it might be. I literally even thought, I was like, hey, I didn't test the audio before doing the stream, and I was like, it'll probably be okay. But thank you so much for stopping by, Ashlyn. You're the best. How'd the stream go? I saw you were streaming this morning, and then I saw you were streaming tonight, so I was like, how is she streaming so much in one day? The ad wouldn't let you. I hate when that happens. I'm sorry. I will thank you again. Hi, Ashlyn. Thank you so much for the raid. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, how have you been doing? Again, you've been streaming a lot. Yeah. Same game because you're in love with it and obsessed with it. Is it Resident Evil? Is that what you've been playing? But yeah. I don't know, I was just saying how I'm very excited. I'm doing a whole rebranding, kind of like what you did. I'm updating my starting screen and stuff like that, and that's probably going to be a little bit in the making, but it's something that I've started the cogs for, if that makes any sense. We started doing it, so very exciting. You lost a lot of people before the end. That tends to happen. Sometimes I'll be having like, I know you get more people watching than me, but sometimes I'll have like 7 people watching. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. And then like, I'll look and there'll be like 3 people and I'll be like, okay, maybe people are a bit tired. You're excited to see it? Yeah, I'm very excited for it to happen. I just started talking with some people today, and we've shaken hands. It was 16 hours. Oh, yeah, dude, I was just saying that I saw you streaming this morning and then I saw you streaming tonight. I thought they might have been two separate streams, but no, you just went for it. I have like a very different mindset where I'll stream for like an hour. Like, you know how, I don't know, I wish I could be more laid back about streaming and like the stuff that I do on stream, but for some reason, I feel like I can't pull back the curtain. So if I need to like go to the bathroom or get food or something, I'm like, well, I should just end the stream because I don't want to leave people hanging, even though I know people don't really care, you know? They don't really care. Oh, I just realized my microphone is not facing me at all. There we go. I don't know if that impacted it. Yeah, I don't know how you do it, dude. Alrighty. Also, how have all of you been? Haven't been here in a bit. You can hold about 20 people and end with 15. Yeah, that makes sense. Especially because of what Caster just said, always seeing you streaming at like 2 a.m. Let me see, we're gonna switch to my reading screen. I'm also gonna, there we go, put my bracelet away because I don't want it clacking off the desk. Yup. I have with me, by the way, I have my favorite green tea, jasmine tea from Starbucks, but I'm gonna be starting off with this water so that it can cool down. Alrighty. Alrighty, I'm very excited. Let's get this party on the road, show on the road. Let's see, oh yeah, we're finishing part 1 today, so this means, I think there's around, let me check to confirm. But I know for sure that there's 24 chapters in the first part and there's 23 chapters in the second part. And we are about to read chapters 23 and 24 from the first part of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is 4 months in the making. But yeah, I'm very excited. I was thinking about streaming a game today, but I was having a lot of difficulties / frustration with my laptop. It is not a gaming laptop. It is not meant for it. But yeah, I don't know. So we're reading today. You've got merch. A shirt you made came in today, and you're wearing it, and awesome. That's awesome. Oh, I love it. Can you do it? Can you do what? Did I ask you to do something? But yeah. I'm clicking on it. Alright. I'm very excited. So, oh, by the way, yeah, you can DM it. Go ahead. Go ahead, DM it. I would love to see it. Also, thank you to everyone, again, who came in the raid. That's so cool of you. I hope if you see something you like, you leave a follow. I'm only streaming once a week for right now over the summer, and maybe it will get started more when I start school. Hopefully it will, but I'm not sure. I'm working full-time this summer, so it's difficult. But yeah, sometimes I play video games. Sometimes I do reading streams. Sometimes I stream whatever. I was just telling my sister earlier today, I read her my entire list of stream stuff, and it is completely full. It's because I was like, oh, my TikToks are getting a lot of views, which my TikToks are not Twitch-related. I was like, my TikToks are getting a lot of views. Should I post another TikTok? It's been like 4 days. And she was like, yeah, I think it's time. And I was like, I don't have any ideas, though. And she was like, well, don't you write them down? And I was like, yeah, I wrote them down, but I don't have any. You know what I do have a lot of ideas for, though? Streaming. I have like 50 streaming ideas. So, if that's enticing, leave a follow, stick around. But yeah, hold on, let me check my DMs. Oh my god, that shirt is so cute! I love pink. I love pink. I love that so much, Ashlyn. Now I'll have to look into it after the stream. Alrighty. Okay, so let's, you got your school supplies this weekend. Oh my god, school, no. I don't know, for some reason I'm always like, yeah, school, like for college, like seeing my friends and stuff, but then whenever I remember the school part of it, like the textbooks and the school supplies, I'm always like, And then also with college, there's the added money part where you're like, it's fine. I got like a cool Snapchat memory from like 2 years ago. And it was just me like with tears in my eyes being like, just bought loans for the first time. And by bought, I mean signed up for. Hey. Alrighty. We're 14 minutes into the stream and we're just starting reading now. That's on par for me. Okay. Also, you'll notice I didn't bring food this time because I realized food in a reading stream is stupid. And by food I mean snacks. Alrighty. Let's start. Chapter 23. Agere Somnia, which in Latin means troubled dreams. Yeah, I'd start looking into colleges if I were you. I didn't start looking at colleges until the very beginning of my senior year, and I ended up applying for 5 colleges. I didn't really push myself or try for any ones that I thought I might not get into, so I did get into all of my colleges. Thankfully, I ended up liking a few of the colleges that I got into, and I toured them, and I picked one. And also, if you don't want to go to college, or you're not sure, community college is an awesome bet. I know someone, actually, I was talking to her earlier today, not about this, but she didn't know what she wanted to do for college, so she did her first year at a community college and ended up going through an exchange program and spending her freshman year in Italy. So, you never know. It's a subtle trans flag and it has Arya's heart on the back. Oh my god, wait, I do need to look closer. Dude, it's so good. The hell yeah on it. Oh my god. Oh, that's... Ashlyn, I love it. Oh, that's so good. I would totally wear something that says hell yeah on it. Okay, sorry. Latin, troubled dreams. That's the start of chapter 23. It is adorable. Oh, just so you know, as if it wasn't obvious, yes, this is a reading stream, but if you want to chat with me or say something to me, I'm going to answer, because I like having conversations with people. It's like, there's no fun in the stream, in my opinion, especially if you're a smaller streamer like me, if people are talking in your chat and you're just ignoring it. Alrighty. The following day... so let me just say, the way that chapter 22 just finished was that they were on a island that wasn't, like, quote-unquote civilized, and the natives there were trying to figure out what the Nautilus was, like the ship, and they were stuck in the coral reef and they couldn't move, and then the tide washed in and they were able to get away, and that's how it ended. Alrighty. So, the following day, January 10th, the Nautilus resumed its travels in midwater, but at a remarkable speed that I estimated to be at least 35 miles per hour. The propeller was going so fast I could neither follow nor count its revolutions. I thought about how this marvelous electric force not only gave motion, heat, and light to the Nautilus, but even protected it against outside attack, transforming it into a sacred ark no profane hand could touch without being blasted. My wonderment was boundless, and it went from the submersible itself to the engineer who had created it. Oh, also I would like to say, one of the things when I first started doing these reading streams that I had in mind is, this is exactly the type of stream where if you want to lurk, or because I'm doing it later at night, if you want to go to bed, or you're doing something else, you want to put it on in the background, I think this suits itself for that. So, okay. We were traveling due west, and on January 11th, we doubled Cape Wessel, located in longitude 135 degrees and latitude 10 degrees north, the western tip of the Gulf of Carpentaria. Reefs were still numerous, but more widely scattered, and were fixed on the chart with the greatest accuracy. The Nautilus easily avoided the Monet breakers to the port and the Victoria Reefs to starboard, positioned at longitude 130 degrees on the 10th parallel, which we went along rigorously. On January 13th, arriving in the Timor Sea, Captain Nemo raised the island of that name at longitude 122 degrees. This island, whose surface area measures 1,625 square leagues, is governed by Rajas. These aristocrats deem themselves the sons of crocodiles. In other words, descendants with the most exalted origins to which a human being can lay claim. Accordingly, their scaly ancestors infest the island's rivers and are the subjects of special veneration. They are sheltered, nurtured, flattered, pampered, and offered a ritual diet of nubile maidens. And woe to the foreigner who lifts a finger against these sacred saurians. But the Nautilus wanted nothing to do with these nasty animals. Oh my god, wow. Change of pace. Timor Island was visible for barely an instant at noon, while the chief officer determined his position. I also caught only a glimpse of Little Rhodey Island, part of the same group, whose women have a well-established reputation for beauty in the Malaysian marketplace. After our position fix, the Nautilus's latitude bearings were modulated to the southwest. Our prow pointed to the Indian Ocean. Where would Captain Nemo's fancies take us? Would he head up to the shores of Asia? Would he pull nearer to the beaches of Europe? Unlikely choices for a man who avoided populated areas. So would he go down south? Would he double the Cape of Good Hope, then Cape Horn, and push on to the Antarctic Pole? Finally, would he return to the seas of the Pacific, where the Nautilus could navigate freely and easily? Time would tell. After cruising the Cartier, Hibernia, Seringapatam, and Scott Reefs, the solid element's last excursions against the liquid element, we were beyond all sight of shore by January 14th. The Nautilus slowed down in an odd manner, and very unpredictable in its ways. It sometimes swam in the midst of waters, sometimes drifted on their surface. During this phase of our voyage, Captain Nemo conducted interesting experiments on the different temperatures in various strata of the sea. Under ordinary conditions, such readings are obtained using some pretty complicated instruments whose findings are dubious, to say the least, whether they're thermometric sounding lines whose glass often shatters under the water's pressure, or those devices based on the varying resistance of metals to electric currents. The results so obtained can't be adequately double-checked. By contrast, Captain Nemo would seek the sea's temperature by going himself to its depths, and when he placed his thermometer in contact with the various layers of liquid, he found the sought-for degree immediately and with certainty. And so, by loading up its ballast tanks, or by sinking obliquely with its slanting fins, the Nautilus successfully reached depths of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 7,000, 9,000, and 10,000 meters. And the ultimate conclusion from these experiments was that, in all latitudes, the sea had a permanent temperature of 4.5 degrees centigrade at a depth of 1,000 meters. I have watched these experiments with the most intense fascination. Captain Nemo brought a real passion to them. I often wondered why he took these observations. Were they for the benefit of his fellow man? It was unlikely, because sooner or later his work would perish with him in some unknown sea. Unless he intended the results of experiments for me. But that meant this strange voyage of mine would come to an end, and no such end was in sight. Oh, I just realized I never put on the cowboy hat. Hi, Knar! I was told to put on a cowboy hat, and I forgot to. Thanks for stopping by. Hello. I'm probably gonna play Snake RX again at some point. Thank you so much for the gift. I'm obsessed still. I mean, by obsessed, I haven't played it in like 15 days, but that's obsessed for me. Alrighty. Be that as it may, Captain Nemo also introduced me to the different data he had obtained on the relative densities of the water in our globe's chief seas. From this news, I derived some personal enlightenment having nothing to do with science. It happened on the morning of January 15th. The captain, with whom I was strolling on the platform, asked me if I knew how salt water differs in density from sea to sea. I said no, adding that there was a lack of rigorous scientific observations on this subject. I've taken such observations, he told me, and I can vouch for their reliability. Fine, I replied, but the Nautilus lives in a separate world, and the secrets of its scientists don't make their way ashore. You're right, Professor, he told me after a few moments of silence. This is a separate world. It's as alien to the Earth as the planets accompanying our globe around the sun, and will never become familiar with the work of the scientists on Saturn or Jupiter. but since fate has linked our two lives, I can reveal the results of my observations to you. I'm all attention, Captain. You're aware, Professor, that salt water is denser than fresh water, but this density isn't uniform. In essence, if I represent the density of fresh water by 1.000, then I find 1.028 for the waters of the Atlantic, 1.026 for the waters of the Pacific, 1.030 for the waters of the Mediterranean. Aha, I thought. So he ventures into the Mediterranean. 1.018 for the waters of the Ionian Sea, and 1.029 for the waters of the Adriatic. Assuredly, the Nautilus didn't avoid the heavily traveled seas of Europe, and from this insight I concluded that the ship would take us back, perhaps very soon, to more civilized shores. I expected Ned Land to greet this news with unfeigned satisfaction. For several days, our work hours were spent in all sorts of experiments on the degree of salinity in waters of different depths, or on their electric properties, coloration, and transparency, and in every instance Captain Nemo displayed an ingenuity equaled only by his graciousness toward me. Then I saw no more of him for some days, and again lived on board in seclusion. On January 16th, the Nautilus seemed to have fallen asleep, in just a few meters beneath the surface of the water. Its electric equipment had been turned off, and the motionless propeller let it ride with the waves. I assumed that the crew were busy with interior repairs, required by the engine's strenuous mechanical action. My companions and I then witnessed an unusual sight. The panels in the lounge were open, and since the Nautilus's beacon was off, a hazy darkness reigned in the midst of the waters. Covered with heavy clouds, the stormy sky gave only the faintest light to the ocean's upper strata. I was observing the state of the sea under these conditions, and even the largest fish were nothing more than ill-defined shadows, when the Nautilus was suddenly transferred into broad daylight. At first I thought the beacon had gone back on and was casting its electric light into the liquid mass. I was mistaken, and after a hasty examination I discovered my error. The Nautilus had drifted into the midst of some phosphorescent strata, which in this darkness came off as positively dazzling. This effect was caused by myriads of tiny, luminous animals, whose brightness increased when they glided over the metal hull of our submersible. In the midst of these luminous sheets of water, I then glimpsed flashes of light, like those seen inside a blazing furnace from streams of molten lead or from masses of metal brought to a white heat. Flashes so intense that certain areas of the light became shadows by comparison, in a fiery setting from which every shadow should seemingly have been banished. No, this was no longer the calm emission of our usual lighting. This light throbbed with unprecedented vigor and activity. You sensed that it was alive. In essence, it was a cluster of countless open-sea Infuriosa, of Noctulia an eighth of an inch wide, actual globules of transparent jelly equipped with a thread-like tentacle, up to 25,000 of which have been counted in 30 cubic centimeters of water. And the power of their light was increased by those glimmers unique to medusas, starfish, common jellyfish, angel-wing clams, and other phosphorescent zoophytes, which were saturated with grease from organic matter decomposed by the sea and perhaps with mucus secreted by fish. Oh, lovely, beautiful. Oh, also, sorry, no more cowboy hat. That's a 5-minute point redemption. Alrighty, now I can hear our beautiful music again. Is it beautiful? I think it's nice. Alrighty. For several hours, the Nautilus drifted in this brilliant tide, and our wonderment grew when we saw huge marine animals cavorting in it, like the fire-dwelling salamanders of myth. In the midst of these flames that didn't burn, I could see swift, elegant porpoises, the tireless pranksters of the seas, and sailfish 3 meters long. Those shrewd heralds of hurricanes, whose fearsome broadswords sometimes banged against the lounge window. Then smaller fish appeared, miscellaneous triggerfish, leatherjacks, unicorn fish, and 100 others that left stripes on this luminous atmosphere in their course. Some magic lay behind this dazzling sight. Perhaps some atmospheric condition had intensified this phenomenon? Perhaps a storm had been unleashed on the surface of the waves? but only a few meters down, the Nautilus felt no tempest's fury, and the ship rocked peacefully in the midst of the calm waters. And so it went, some new wonder constantly delighting us. Council observed and classified his zoophytes, articulates, mollusks, and fish. The days passed quickly, and I no longer kept track of them. Sorry, this song is annoying me. I'm so sorry. Dance of the Raindrops. Was that an Aroma Joe's straw, or am I tripping? You're tripping, I'm so sorry. This is a plastic reusable straw. My mom bought them. They are freaking massive. But yeah, I'm not drinking Aroma Joe's at 9 p.m. To anyone unfamiliar, that is coffee. Or at least a coffee place. Alrighty. The days passed quickly, and I no longer kept track of them. Ned, as usual, kept looking for changes of pace from our standard fare. Like actual snails, we were at home in our shell, and I can vouch that it's easy to turn into a full-fledged snail. Guys, that's a weird sentence to say, but okay. I'm just gonna read it one more time. Like actual snails, we were at home in our shell, and I can vouch that it's easy to turn into a full-fledged snail. So this way of living began to seem simple and natural to us, and we no longer envisioned a different lifestyle on the surface of planet Earth, when something happened to remind us of our strange circumstances. On January 18th, the Nautilus lay in longitude 105 degrees and latitude 15 degrees south. The weather was threatening, the sea rough and billowy. The wind was blowing a strong gust from the east. The barometer, which had been falling for some days, forecast an approaching struggle of the elements. I had climbed onto the platform just as the chief officer was taking his readings of hour angles. And by hour, it is H-O-U-R. Out of habit, I waited for him to pronounce his daily phrase. But that day it was replaced by a different phrase, just as incomprehensible. Almost at once I saw Captain Nemo appear, lift his spyglass, and inspect the horizon. For some minutes the captain stood motionless, rooted to the spot contained within the field of his lens. Then he lowered his spyglass and exchanged about 10 words with his chief officer. The latter seemed to be in the grip of excitement that he tried in vain to control. More in command of himself, Captain Nemo remained cool. Furthermore, he seemed to be raising... I'm sorry, the music just distracted me. Oh. Hello? Hello to everyone watching. You should vibe with me. This is Prelude number 1 by Daniela Santos. And I cannot read while it is on, but it's too delightful for me to skip. So we're gonna take a 1-minute jam break. Hello, Toaster! Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm going to vibe for a moment. Maybe have some tea if it's not too hot. I can't bring myself to skip this song because then Twitch will think I don't like it, and I absolutely do. Sorry for just thudding super heavy against the table. I know you guys love when my mic picks up those noises. Yeah, right? It's Charlie Brown-ass music. I literally was like, what is this? Okay, now we're back to our regularly scheduled classical. Alrighty. So where we are right now is that every single morning someone takes a measurement of the temperature and the weather for the day and everything. And today it looks like there's going to be a storm. And for some reason the people on the Nautilus are very excited about that. Alrighty. I was in the middle of a sentence and I got cut off, so here we go. More in command of himself, Captain Nemo remained cool. Furthermore, he seemed to be raising certain objections that his chief officer kept answering with flat assurances. At least that's what I gathered from their differences in tone and gesture. As for me, I stared industrially in the direction under observation, but without spotting a thing. Sky and water merged into a completely, perfectly clean horizon line. Meanwhile, Captain Nemo strolled from one end of the platform to the other, not glancing at me, perhaps not even seeing me. His step was firm but less regular than usual. Sometimes he would stop, cross his arms over his chest, and observe the sea. What could he be looking for over that immense expanse? By then, the Nautilus lay hundreds of miles from the nearest coast. The chief officer kept lifting his spyglass and stubbornly examining the horizon, walking up and down, stamping his foot, in his nervous agitation a sharp contrast to his superior. But this mystery would inevitably be cleared up, and soon, because Captain Nemo gave orders to increase speed. At once the engine stepped up its drive power, setting the propeller in swifter rotation. Just then the chief officer drew the captain's attention anew. The latter interrupted his strolling and aimed his spyglass at the point indicated. He observed it for a good while. As for me, deeply puzzled, I went below to the lounge, and brought back an excellent long-range telescope I habitually used. Leaning my elbows on the beacon housing, which jutted from the stern of the platform, I got set to scour that whole stretch of sky and sea. But no sooner had I peered into the eyepiece than the instrument was snatched from my hands. The halftime show theme is the Berlin Wall. The halftime show theme is the Berlin Wall? Wait. But it already was that 2 years ago. No, sorry, 4 years ago it was that. Or was that 3 years ago? It was that already. When was it that already? That's weird. Anyway, so Captain Nemo's trying to stop Professor Aronnax from seeing something. I spun around. Captain Nemo was standing before me, but I almost didn't recognize him. His facial features were transfigured. Gleaming with dark fire, his eyes had shrunk beneath his frowning brow. His teeth were half bared. His rigid body, clenched fist, and head drawn between his shoulders, all attested to a fierce hate breathing from every pore. He didn't move. My spyglass fell from his hand and rolled at his feet. Had I accidentally caused these symptoms of anger? Did this incomprehensible individual think that I had detected some secret forbidden to the guests on the Nautilus? No. I wasn't the subject of his hate because he wasn't even looking at me. His eyes stayed stubbornly focused on that inscrutable point of the horizon. Finally, Captain Nemo regained his self-control. His facial appearance, so profoundly changed, now resumed its usual calm. He addressed a few words to his chief officer in their strange language, and then he turned to me. Reduce views, recycle, babe. Yeah, I know. It's still strange, though. I'm gonna ask Castor more about that later. Professor Aronnax, he told me in a tone of some urgency, I ask that you now honor one of the binding agreements between us. Which one, Captain? You and your companions must be placed in confinement until I see fit to set you free. You're in command, I answered, gaping at him. But may I address a question to you, sir? You may not. After that, I stopped objecting and started obeying, since resistance was useless. I went below to the cabin occupied by Ned Land and Council, and I informed them of the captain's decision. I'll let the reader decide how this news was received by the Canadian. In any case, there was no time for explanations. 4 crewmen were waiting at the door, and they led us into the cell where we had spent our first night aboard the Nautilus. Ned Land tried to lodge a complaint, but the only answer he got was a door shut in his face. Can you tell me what this means? Council asked me. I told my companions what had happened. They were as astonished as I was, but none the wiser. Then I sank into deep speculation, and Captain Nemo's strange facial seizure kept haunting me. I was incapable of connecting two ideas in logical order, and I had strayed into the most absurd hypotheses when I was snapped out of my mental struggles by these words from Ned Land. "Well, look here! Lunch is served!" Indeed, the table had been laid. Apparently, Captain Nemo had given this order at the same time he commanded the Nautilus to pick up speed. Will you allow me to make you a recommendation?" Council asked me. "Yes, my boy," I replied. "Well, you need to eat your lunch. It's prudent because we have no idea what the future holds." "You're right, Council." "Unfortunately," Ned Land said, "they've only given us the standard menu." "Ned, my friend," Council answered, "what would you say if they've given us no lunch at all?" This dose of sanity cut the harpooner's complaints clean off. We sat down at the table. Our meal proceeded pretty much in silence. I ate very little. Council, everlastingly prudent, force-fed himself. That's in quotes. Despite the menu, Ned Land didn't waste a bite. Then, lunch over, each of us propped himself in a corner. Just then, the luminous globe lighting our cell went out, leaving us in profound darkness. Ned Land soon dozed off, and to my astonishment, Council also fell into a heavy slumber. I was wondering what could have caused this urgent need for sleep, when I felt a dense torpor saturate my brain. I tried to keep my eyes open, but they closed in spite of me. I was in the grip of anguished hallucinations. Obviously, some sleep-inducing substance had been laced into the food we'd just eaten. So imprisonment wasn't enough to conceal Captain Nemo's plans from us. Sleep was needed as well. Then I heard the hatches close. The sea's undulations, which had been creating a gentle rocking motion, now ceased. Had the Nautilus left the surface of the ocean? Was it re-entering the motionless strata deep in the sea? I tried to fight off this drowsiness. It was impossible. My breathing grew weaker. I felt a mortal chill freeze my dull, nearly paralyzed limbs. Like little domes of lead, my lids fell over my eyes. I couldn't raise them. A morbid sleep, full of hallucinations, seized my whole being. Then the visions disappeared and left me in utter oblivion. And that's the end of Chapter 3, Troubled Dreams. Now it makes sense, doesn't it? Before we start the last chapter of Part 1, or Chapter 24, I'm just going to put it in just chatting and say, how are we all feeling? We're at the 40-minute in mark. I'm going to drink some water, chill to this music. Personally, how I've been doing lately, this was very exciting for me. I worked a gay wedding this past weekend, which was very exciting because I've worked quite a few weddings now, but I've never worked one for lesbians, and that's who it was today. It was very exciting. Or not today, it was the other day. And it was also the nicest wedding guests I've ever seen. They were all so nice. Like, it was beautiful. I loved it. The Berlin Wall? Yeah, interesting, huh? Like, I specifically remember that one of the marching shows I did, back in the day, it wasn't particularly Berlin Wall themed, but there was the sound clip of Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall. And I'm not gonna blame anyone for it, because technically that was a different director, but it still seems like a really weird pull, considering that there are endless marching show themes out there. And it is awesome. It was awesome, Ashlyn. The brides looked beautiful. The food was beautiful. It was the smallest wedding that I've ever catered. It was around 50 people. And also, it was still clear that they had a lot of money, and they spent a lot of money on it to make it a beautiful day, and I'm sure that it was. They had, like, photographers, and the venue was beautiful, and they had my catering company, and my catering company, pretty darn good. So, but yeah, I can't believe that theme. It's not my deal, or not my problem, that's what I meant to say. Also, what date is it? It is the August 2nd, So in officially 26 days, I will be moving into my college dorm, which is way too soon for comfort. You know how your wedding will go when that finally happens? You know how it's going? Oh my god, wait, I just saw what Toaster said. I've also thought about my wedding in detail, but I would love to hear about other people's weddings because that's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. And yeah, the Cold War Berlin Wall, this is now going to be the second Berlin Wall / Cold War themed marching show that my high school has done in a span of 5 years. Actually, no, I'm gonna be a junior, so it'll be 8 years. But that's still too many. It's like the meme where it's like, if I had a nickel every time my high school did a Berlin Wall themed marching show, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's strange it happened twice. I wouldn't say what is New England on. I think this is specifically my high school. Oh god. Yeah, no, it's good times, good memories. I also saw that band camp started today for some of y'all, so I know that most people hate band camp, but I always loved it, and I would bring candy and bubbles to try to make it better for people. And oh, speaking of weddings, because we were just talking about weddings, I'm sorry, I'd like to know if anyone consulted the family of the Ukrainian kid in your mom's class. I mean, they're gonna be in 8th grade this year, I believe, so they won't be at the high school, but I'm sure that if that kid was at the high school, they would say, yeah, so you probably know a lot about this, right? So I'm sure that you could tell us maybe a little bit about your family's experience. Like, that's totally what they would do. They're insane. It started yesterday, you're not there. I don't need to run it back. I'm just saying that this is exactly what they would do. I've had those old directors say, what did I say? What did I say? Ukrainian? What did I say? Which word? Which word? Which word am I repronouncing? What word did I fuck up? What did I do? Huh? Am I being added or am I being killed? No, that's not even a funny joke. I love how I just tried to redirect and be like, so this is how my wedding would go. And then I hear someone say, no. Absolutely not. Run that back. But if anyone was wondering how my wedding would go, I don't know. But I do know that the party is going to be the most important part for me. Ukrainian? I don't think I said it on purpose. Totally I didn't. Hey, you can't even say that I don't know how to pronounce Ukrainian, because since being your friend, I've had to think about Ukraine more times than I ever had in my life previous to that. And by had to, I do mean it's come up in conversation more than it ever had before in my life. So, I'm gonna finish this water and then we're drinking tea from this point on, baby. Also, I can't believe 10 people are watching this horrible train wreck. Thank you for stopping by, 10 people. I'm surprised because my reading streams don't usually get a lot of traffic, but I still do them, so. You follow the entire women's rugby team on TikTok? That's like, I was seeing on Twitter this like photo of someone from a volleyball team in the Olympics, and they were like, look at her, she's beautiful, and I was like, damn, I might have to watch the Olympics. Hydrate! Oh my gosh, I just finished my water. So we will be drinking this. Thank you so much for making sure I take care of myself. During these reading streams, it's especially important. Also, when I do my reading streams, I need to, like, stay hydrated even more than usual. Oh, and, what was I gonna say? Oh, you know how I haven't done a channel point, like, a community challenge in a while with channel points? I'm planning on doing that again once I'm streaming more so that your points aren't wasted if you donate. because in the past I've done the Pollo Pollo stream and the cheese stream, and I'd love to do stuff like that again, but because I haven't been streaming as often, I'm worried if I'm only streaming like 4 times a month, if I do one of those, there's a very high chance people might not reach the goal. And I do want it to be hard, but I want it to be doable, you know? So. Yes! One time Toaster and I were getting our nails done, and women's basketball was on the TV, and we were just like, it's time to start giving a fuck about women's basketball, because they were all such pretty women. And that's how y'all feel about rugby, I guess, huh? You're saving up for Call Mom. Out of curiosity, what are you at? No one's redeemed a Call Mom in a hot second. Hold on, I'm just gonna chug some of this, and then we're gonna start reading on chapter 24. $3K. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I gotta stream more. You gotta rack up them points. I'm actually really surprised at how many points some people have. Like, I save up. There are some people's channels where the reason I have so many points is because they don't have any redemptions that I want to use. But then there are some people's where I just don't even realize that I've like watched them for as long as I have. You have to watch people for quite a bit of time to get up to the 8K needed for Call Mom. So if you've gone to that point, literally you're god tier. It's 8.5K. Crab stream the assembly of the Pitbull Shrine. I might. I literally might. I was thinking about doing a room tour when I get to college, so I could. You guys don't really want to see my room tour at home. This is basically it. We got the 2 guns I painted on the wall. They're Nerf guns, hence their bright neon orange. And then I got some other side posters and a filtered drinking water sign that I stole from my school. Shh, don't tell the school. And then a poster I got from IKEA. Yeah. Cowboy hat. Oh my gosh. They have like 50K in your stream? What are they saving for? Oh my god. You've achieved Call Mom twice. I like that you say achieved instead of redeemed. I have achieved calling Mom. Yes, it's time for the cowboy hat. But yeah, I don't even know how people get so many points. And I was like, how? I guess with you, Ashlyn, it makes a bit more sense because you're streaming way more often than I am. I don't think anyone has 50K points for me. But yeah. And by a bit more often, I mean you're streaming much more often than I am. Also, on that note, take care of yourself. I know that you cancel streams some days. But in the case of today in particular, you started streaming very early. You were going for like 16 hours. If you need to leave, go to sleep, go ahead and do it, okay? I care about your personal health and safety. Everyone else, you are absolutely not off the hook and you must stick around. How much of my love they have. That's really nice. I like that. That's really cute. Also, I would like to say, even though I am rebranding a lot of my stuff, I am not getting rid of the crab coins. The crab theme and the crab coins will stay. Okay. And now we shall continue on if everyone has said what they need to say. Okay? Take care of themselves. Drinking water. When I drink water, you should also drink water. Just saying. When I put on a cowboy hat, you should also put on a cowboy hat. Just saying. Maybe one of these days, I'll put on my full cowboy ensemble. Maybe for Halloween time. Oh, I'm so excited for Halloween, by the way. I have so many stream ideas. I'm very excited. I love not just Halloween, but I love scary stuff, spooky stuff, horror stuff. Not like necessarily gore or anything. That's not my jam, but like being scared in a safe environment, that's my jam. So. Use coconut crab. I don't even know what that means. Alrighty. Oh, also, not to give too much away, the new stream layout will probably have something to do with crabs. Just saying. Crab Wraith, anyway. Now we shall start. Chapter 24 of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, ending Part 1, the last chapter of Part 1. Chapter 24, The Coral Realm. The next day, I woke up with my head unusually clear. Much to my surprise, I was in my stateroom. No doubt my companions had been put back in their cabin without noticing it any more than I had. Like me, they would have no idea what took place during the night, and to unravel this mystery, I could count only on some future happenstance. I then considered leaving my stateroom. Was I free or still a prisoner? Perfectly free. I opened my door, headed down the gangways, and climbed the central companionway. Hatches that had been closed the day before were now open. I arrived on the platform. Ned and Council were waiting there for me. I questioned them. I questioned them. They knew nothing. Lost in a heavy sleep of which they had no memory, they were quite startled to be back in their cabin. I am anti-gore. Oh no. Anti-L? No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually... Hold on. I was gonna say, Al Gore an environmentalist? I'm definitely not anti the environment. I love the environment. I'm so stupid. Am I anti-vor? I guess vor and gore are one of those things where I'm like, hey, if you want to watch it or read about it or whatever, you can. Just don't make me also do that, please. I would appreciate it if I didn't. Damn, we just started chapter 24 and already we're challenging some pretty difficult topics. Lost in a heavy sleep of which they had no memory, they were quite startled to be back in their cabin. As for the Nautilus, it seemed as tranquil and mysterious as ever. It was cruising on the surface of the waves at a moderate speed. Nothing seemed to have changed on board. Ned Land observed the sea with his penetrating eyes. It was deserted. The Canadians sighted nothing new on the horizon, neither sail nor shore. A breeze was blowing noisily from the west, and disheveled by the wind, long billows made the submersible roll very noticeably. After renewing its air, the Nautilus stayed at an average depth of 15 meters, enabling it to return quickly to the surface of the waves. And, contrary to custom, it executed such a maneuver several times during that day of January 19th. I just lost my part. Okay, there we go. The chief officer would then climb onto the platform, and his usual phrase would ring through the ship's interior. As for Captain Nemo, he didn't appear. Of the other men on board, I saw only my emotionless steward, who served me with his usual mute efficiency. Near 2 o'clock, I was busy organizing my notes in the lounge, when the captain opened the door and appeared. I bowed to him. He gave me an almost imperceptible bow in return, without saying a word to me. I resumed my work, hoping he might give me some sort of explanation of the previous afternoon's events. He did nothing of the sort. I stared at him. His face looked exhausted. His reddened eyes hadn't been refreshed by sleep. His facial features expressed profound sadness, real chagrin. He walked up and down, sat and stood, picked up a book at random, discarded it immediately, consulted his instruments without taking his customary notes, and seemed unable to rest easy for an instant. Finally, he came over to me and said, "Are you a physician, Professor Aronnax?" This inquiry was so unexpected that I stared at him a good while without replying. "Are you a physician?" he repeated. "Several of your scientific colleagues took their degrees in medicine, such as Gretelier, Maquin-Fedon, and others." "That's right," I said. "I am a doctor. I used to be on call at the hospitals. I was in practice for several years before joining the museum." "Sorry, cowboy hat gone. You must redeem it to see it again." "Excellent, sir." My reply obviously pleased Captain Nemo. But not knowing what he was driving at, I waited for further questions, ready to reply as circumstances dictated. "Professor Aronnax," the captain said to me, "would you consent to give your medical attentions to one of my men?" "Someone is sick?" "Yes." "I'm ready to go with you." "Come." I admit that my heart was pounding. Lord knows why, but I saw a definite connection between the sick crewman and yesterday's happenings, and the mystery of those events concerned me at least as much as the man's sickness. Captain Nemo led me to the Nautilus's stern and invited me into a cabin located next to the sailors' quarters. On a bed there lay a man some 40 years old, with strongly molded features, the very image of an Anglo-Saxon. I bent over him. Not only was he sick, he was wounded. Swathed in blood-soaked linen, his head was resting on a folded pillow. I undid the linen bandages, while the wounded man gazed with great staring eyes and let me proceed without making a single complaint. It was a horrible wound. The head had been smashed open by some blunt instrument, leaving the raked brains exposed. Gore. It's gore. And the cerebral matter had suffered deep abrasions. Blood clots had formed in this dissolving mass, taking on the cover of wine dregs. Both contusion and concussion of the brain had occurred. The sick man's breathing was labored, and muscle spasms quivered on his face. Cerebral inflammation was complete, and had brought on a paralysis of movement and sensation. I took the wounded man's pulse. It was intermittent. The body's extremities were already growing cold, and I saw that death was approaching without any possibility of my holding it in check. After dressing the poor man's wound, I redid the linen bandages around his head, and I turned to Captain Nemo. "How did he get this wound?" I asked him. "That's not important," the captain replied evasively. "The Nautilus suffered a collision that cracked one of the engine's levers, and it struck this man. My chief officer was standing beside him. This man leapt forward to intercept the blow. A brother lays down his life for his brother, a friend for his friend. What could be simpler? That's the law for everyone on board the Nautilus. But what's your diagnosis of his condition?" I hesitated to speak my mind. "You may talk freely," the captain told me. "This man does not understand French." I took a last look at the wounded man, then replied, "This man will be dead in 2 hours. Nothing can save him?" "Nothing." Captain Nemo clenched his fists, and tears slid from his eyes, which I had thought incapable of weeping. For a few moments, the more I observed the dying man, whose life was ebbing little by little. He grew still more pale under the electric light that bathed his deathbed. I looked at his intelligent head, furrowed with premature wrinkles that misfortune, perhaps misery, had etched long before. I was hoping to detect the secret of his life in the last words that might escape from his lips. "You may go, Professor Aronnax," Captain Nemo told me. I left the captain in the dying man's cabin, and I repaired to my stateroom, very moved by this scene. All day long I was aquiver with gruesome forebodings. That night I slept poorly, and between my fitful dreams I thought I heard a distant moaning like a funeral dirge. Was it a prayer for the dead, murmured in a language I couldn't understand? The next morning I climbed on deck. Captain Nemo was already there. As soon as he saw me, he came over. "Professor," he said to me, "would it be convenient for you to make an underwater excursion today?" "With my companions?" I asked. "If they're agreeable." "We're yours to command, Captain." "Then kindly put on your diving suits." As for the dead or dying man, he hadn't come into the picture. I rejoined Ned Land and Council. I informed them of Captain Nemo's proposition. Council was eager to accept, and this time the Canadian proved perfectly amenable to going with us. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. By 8:30 we were suited up for this new stroll and equipped with our 2 devices for lighting and breathing. The double door opened, and accompanied by Captain Nemo with a dozen crewmen following, we set foot on the firm seafloor where the Nautilus was resting, 10 meters down. A gentle slope gravitated to an uneven bottom whose depth was about 15 fathoms. This bottom was completely different from the one I had visited during my first excursion under the waters of the Pacific Ocean. Here I saw no fine-grained sand, no underwater prairies, not one open sea forest. I immediately recognized the wondrous region in which Captain Nemo did the honors that day. It was the coral realm. In the zoophyte branch, class Alcyonaria, I'm going to say it's Alcyonaria, one finds the order Gorgonaria, which contains 3 groups: sea fans, Asidian polyps, and chloral polyps. It's in this last that precious coral belongs, an unusual substance that, at different times, has been classified in the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms. Medicine to the ancients, jewelry to the moderns, it wasn't decisively placed in the animal kingdom until 1694. The coral is a unit of tiny animals assembled over a polypyrite that's brittle and stony in nature. These polyps have a unique generating mechanism that reproduces them via the budding process, and they have an individual existence while also participating in a communal life. Hence, they embody a sort of natural socialism. I was familiar with the latest research on this bizarre zoophyte, which turns to stone when taking on tree form, as some naturalists have very aptly observed, and nothing could have been more fascinating to me than to visit one of these petrified forests that nature has planted in the bottom of the sea. We turned on our Rukmarov devices and went along a coral shore. Oh, that's their lights, by the way. And went along a coral shore in the process of forming, which, given time, will someday close off this whole part of the Indian Ocean. Our path was bordered by hopelessly tangled bushes, formed from snarls of shrubs all covered with little star-shaped white-streaked flowers. Only, contrary to plants on shore, these tree forms become attached to rocks on the seafloor by heading from top to bottom. Our lights produced 1,000 delightful effects while playing over these brightly colored boughs. I fancied I saw these cylindrical, membrane-filled tubes trembling beneath the water's undulations. I was tempted to gather their fresh petals, which were adorned with delicate tentacles, some newly in bloom, others barely opened, while nimble fish with fluttering fins brushed past them like flocks of birds. But if my hands came near the moving flowers of these sensitive, lively creatures, an alarm would instantly sound throughout the colony. The white petals retracted into their red sheaths, the flowers vanished before my eyes, and the bush changed into a chunk of stony... I'm sorry, this is what it says. Into a chunk of stony nipples. Sheer chance had placed me in the presence of the most valuable specimens of this zoophyte. This coral was equal to those fished up from the Mediterranean off the Barbary coast or the shores of France and Italy. With its bright colors, it lived up to these poetic names of blood flower, and blood foam that the industry confers on its finest exhibits. Coral shells... I'm having a freaking moment right now. Coral sells for as much as 500 francs per kilogram, and in this locality the liquid strata hid enough to make the fortunes of a whole host of coral fishermen. This valuable substance often merges with other polyparies, forming compact, hopelessly tangled units known as machiota, and I noted some wonderful pink samples of this coral. Alrighty. I promise only one more paragraph of a couple more paragraphs of me describing coral. That's what we signed up for with this book, I'm sorry. But as the bushes shrank, the tree forms magnified. Actual petrified thickets and long alcoves from some fantastic school of architecture kept opening up before our steps. Captain Nemo entered beneath a dark gallery whose gentle slope took us to a depth of 10,000... Nope. I don't even know how I got 10,000. It's 100 meters. You can tell this is the last chapter before I end stream. The light from our glass coils produced magical effects at times, lingering on the wrinkled roughness of some natural arch, or some overhang suspended like a chandelier, which our lamps flecked with fiery sparks. Amid these shrubs of precious coral, I observed other polyps no less unusual. Melita coral, rainbow coral with jointed outgrowths, then a few tufts of genus Corallina? Some green and others red, actually a type of seaweed encrusted with limestone salts, which after long disputes naturalists have finally placed in the vegetable kingdom. But as one intellectual has remarked, here perhaps is the actual point where life rises humbly out of slumbering stone, but without breaking away from its crude starting point. I'm changing this song as well, it's annoying me. Cool. Finally, after 2 hours of walking, we reached a depth of about 300 meters. In other words, the lowermost limit at which coral can begin to form. But here it was no longer some isolated bush or a modest grove of low timber. It was an immense forest, huge mineral vegetation, enormous petrified trees linked by garlands of elegant hydras from the genus Plumellaria, whose tropical creepers of the sea, all decked out in those shades and gleams. We passed freely under their lofty boughs, lost up in the shadows of the waves, while at our feet organ pipe coral, stony coral, star coral, fungus coral, and sea anemone from the genus Caryophylla formed a carpet of flowers all strewn with dazzling gems. What an indescribable sight! Oh, if only we could share our feelings! Why were we imprisoned behind these masks of metal and glass? Why were we forbidden to talk to each other? When they're in their, suits under the water, they can't see each other's facial expressions or hear each other. At least let us lead the lives of the fish that populate this liquid element, or better yet, the lives of amphibians which can spend long hours either at sea or on shore, traveling through their double domain as their whims dictate. Meanwhile, Captain Nemo had called a halt. My companions and I stopped walking, and turning around, I saw the crewmen form a semicircle around their leader. Looking with greater care, I observed that 4 of them were carrying on their shoulders an object that was oblong in shape. At this locality, we stood in the center of a huge clearing surrounded by the tall tree forms of this underwater forest. Our lamps cast a sort of brilliant twilight over the sea, making inordinately long shadows on the seafloor. Past the boundaries of the clearing, the darkness deepened again, relieved only by little sparkles given off by the sharp crests of coral. Ned Land and Council stood next to me. We stared, and it dawned on me that I was about to witness a strange scene. Observing the seafloor, I saw that it swelled at certain points from low bulges that were encrusted with limestone deposits and arranged with a symmetry that betrayed the hand of man. Sorry, my stream manager just glitched out, and it said that my session hadn't been going, I had no session, and I had no viewers. And I was like, am I not streaming anymore? But no, I am. Oh my god, I'm gonna skip this song too. It's not that I don't like it, it's just not right now. Okay. In the middle of the clearing, on a pedestal of roughly piled rocks, there stood a cross of coral, extending long arms you would have thought were made of petrified blood. At a signal from Captain Nemo, one of his men stepped forward and, a few feet from this cross, detached a mattock from his belt and begun to dig a hole. I finally understood. This clearing was a cemetery, this hole a grave, that oblong object the body of the man who must have died during the night. Captain Nemo and his men had come to bury their companion on this communal resting place in the inaccessible ocean floor. No, my mind was reeling as never before. Never had ideas of such impact raced through my brain. I didn't want to see what my eyes saw. Meanwhile, the grave digging went slowly. Fish fled here and there as their retreat was disturbed. I heard the pick ringing on the limestone soil, its iron tip sometimes giving off sparks when it hit a stray piece of flint on the sea bottom. The hole grew longer, wider, and was soon deep enough to receive the body. Then the pallbearers approached. Wrapped in white fabric made from filaments of the fan mussel, the body was lowered into its watery grave. Captain Nemo, arms crossed over his chest, knelt in a posture of prayer, as did all of the friends of him who had loved them. My 2 companions and I bowed reverently. The grave was then covered over with the rubble dug from the seafloor, and it formed a low mound. When this was done, Captain Nemo and his men stood up. Then they all approached the grave, sunk again on bended knee, and extended their hands in a sign of final farewell. Then the funeral party went back up the path to the Nautilus, returning beneath the arches of the forest, through the thickets, along the coral bushes, growing steadily higher. Finally, the ship's rays appeared. Their luminous trail guided us to the Nautilus. By 1 o'clock, we had returned. After changing clothes, I climbed onto the platform, and in the grip of dreadfully obsessive thoughts, I sat next to the beacon. Captain Nemo rejoined me. I stood up and I said to him, "So, as I predicted, that man died during the night?" "Yes, Professor Aronnax," Captain Nemo replied. "And now he rests beside his companions in that coral cemetery?" "Yes, forgotten by the world, but not by us. We dig the graves, then entrust the polyps with sealing away our dead for eternity." Then, with a sudden gesture, the captain hid his face in his clenched fists, vainly trying to hold back a sob. Then he added, "There lies our peaceful cemetery, hundreds of feet beneath the surface of the waves. At least, Captain, your dead can rest serenely there, out of reach of sharks." "Yes, sir," Captain Nemo replied solemnly. "Of sharks and men." End of the first part. We've made it! That's a solemn ending, but this book is no stranger to being sad sometimes. Oh, damn. That was so much. Alrighty. Damn. I've only been live for an hour and 15 minutes and I'm exhausted. But you should be used to that by now. I love this story so much. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I literally, hold on, my face cam's off. Hi, I literally love 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea so much. I'm so happy that I can read it on stream. It's literally, I have like 3 copies of the book at home. I love it so much. It's very beautiful, and it's kind of vague. But yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone who has. We're not going to be raiding anyone tonight because, as I've said before, I don't like raiding when I don't have a lot of viewers. Even if it could make someone's day, I think it's probably best for us to just go to sleep. Take care of ourselves, you know? But yeah, I hope to see you all again soon. It's been fun. It's been a time. Thank you so much for stopping by. And yeah, bye for now. Good night.